Hey, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you are new. So today I'm going to be talking about things that I done to help me heal and to regain my confidence and find myself again after my toxic relationship. So I talked about in my previous video mistakes that I had made, so I thought I would talk about things that actually helped me and good things that I done. Yeah, find me again. So again, I've written some notes. So my first point will definitely be stepping out of my comfort zone. I truly believe that unless you step out of your comfort zone, you just don't grow as a person. I feel that's where you get a lot of confidence, even though initially you don't have it when you start. Once you take that big step, it can really help and boost your confidence. So ways in which I did this, and to be honest, looking back at the time, I wouldn't have known that this was what I was doing and that I was intentionally doing these things to boost my confidence. It was just things that I felt I needed to do at that time, but not really knowing the reason why I was doing them. It was just where I was getting pulled to at the time. But now I know, in being in the space that I am years later, that those were definitely things that helped me hugely on my journey of healing. The first things that I done was to go to uni. So I decided I was going to go to uni at the time, I think, because I felt it was the right thing to do. I'd finished my college course and I thought, yeah, this is the next step to bettering myself. I didn't really know where I wanted to go with it, but I thought, yeah, this will be good for me. And I did this at 22, and it's crazy to me to think that at the time I felt like I was old to be going to uni, when at 22 you're really not. But I think it's because you normally meet, like, you know, students that are fresh out of A-levels, definitely have no children and are staying at, you know, halls and living that real uni life, when that was obviously not me. I was just going to uni and then going back to being a mum, so it was a little bit different for me. But at uni was where I met a lot of new people. I went to uni not knowing anyone, and I left there knowing and having made new friends, which was really good for me. It encouraged me to speak to people that I didn't know. And I think that when you have no confidence, particularly when I can only refer to it as that I had been like imprisoned for years of my life, where I was just at home all the time. I was with the children, you know, I didn't go out much, didn't have much of a social life. So it was very, you know, routine of being a mum, doing what I needed to do and being at home a lot. So having this kind of newfound freedom of going to uni and meeting people from all walks of life, because I think that is the thing with uni, is you get people from a lot of different areas. It isn't just the area that you're from, which college is more like that. When uni is, you know, people coming in from all walks of life, all areas. Others were from Ireland, London, you know, like the Midlands. There was a lot of different areas that people were coming from. So it was really good talking to people, getting to know people, building friendships. And these were all things that were most definitely helping my confidence without me even being aware of it. I think it's also when you meet new people and they like you, like they see something in you that you haven't seen in yourself for years, again, is boosting your confidence and making you realise, actually, I'm a good person, I'm a nice person, people like being around me. Because obviously when you have been manipulated and in a toxic relationship where somebody has put you down constantly, made you feel inferior, made you feel worthless, you don't have any confidence. So when you meet new people and actually you sit there and you think, okay, I am a good person, you know, I am someone that people want to be around, and I am worthy. So yeah, these were things that definitely helped me. I also, around this time, decided that I was going to volunteer at a women's refuge. I think on reflection, I probably was still not in the mindset or space where I should have been putting myself in a situation in a women's refuge, because I hadn't healed myself. But it was, again, a step that I feel helped me in other ways, not necessarily just volunteering at the refuge, but what it brought me, what people I met there that then led me on to other things. So I volunteered at the refuge, and I worked in, it was like called the playroom. So it was looking after the children of the women who were at the refuge whilst they were at appointments or, you know, doing courses and things like that. So we looked after their children. I met a lovely girl there who I worked with, and she introduced me to the church that she went to, which then led me to go on and do an Alpha course. Now, for those who don't know what an Alpha course is, it's basically somewhere where you like go with a group of people, with the people that run the church, and you learn about God, you learn about the Bible. So I have always been quite a spiritual person, so finding my faith, I wouldn't say again, but maybe, you know, retouching with God and getting back in touch with my spiritual side wasn't alien to me. I've prayed from a young age before I even knew what I was praying to or had any understanding of God. So this was something that I was more than willing to explore and felt that I wanted to do. Definitely get back in touch with my spiritual side, and I thought this was the right way to do it. Now, I definitely think that, I don't know whether it was the Alpha course particularly, but I feel like maybe getting back into a church or around spiritual people helped me to get back in touch with my spiritual side, which then led me to, in general, become more at peace. My mum told me at the time or after that she definitely saw a difference in me and how I became, more at peace, more calm. And I definitely feel like this led me to being able to forgive my ex. When I talk about forgiveness, I don't mean I forgave him for him. I forgave him for myself. Because if you hold on to anger, resentment, bitterness for how somebody treated you, it only destroys you. It destroys your soul, your spirit, your energy. It most definitely doesn't hurt them the way it hurts you. And even though it is incredibly difficult to do, and it wasn't something like, oh, I'm back in touch with my spiritual side, you know, I forgive you. It wasn't like that. It was a journey, but it happened around that time that I was, you know, exploring that journey again. And forgiveness is really, really good when it comes to healing and letting go. Letting go is a hard thing to do, and I think as humans we always try and control everything, particularly when it comes to our lives, but actually just letting go and letting God, which is the mantra that I try and live by, it just gives you some element of freedom and peace in doing so. And it definitely helped me on, like I say, on my journey to healing and letting go of situations with him. It was not a moment of where I went to him and was like, oh, I forgive you. Definitely not. It was more just within myself, which I was realising that I was letting go and not holding that resentment anymore and that anger for how he treated me and my children. So that was a huge step for me. Obviously, spirituality isn't for everyone, but I'm just saying what worked for me. The volunteering also led me to complete a course. I would call it a course. So there's obviously things like the Freedom Program, which is a well-known domestic abuse program that women, or those that have, I think it may be just for women, I'm not sure, but those that have gone through domestic abusive relationships, to help those basically rebuild their confidence, rebuild their self-esteem, to try and break the pattern of women not getting out of an abusive relationship and then going back into an abusive relationship with somebody else. It's breaking that pattern, that cycle that happens a lot. So there was that running, which I didn't actually go on, but there was another course that I did that I was recommended through somebody who worked at the refuge. So this was a little bit of a different course, which involved yourself and the child or children that had potentially been affected by the relationship, where you would go there, the women would go into one room and the children would go into another, and it was just kind of where you would talk and get advice on moving forward from your relationship. Basically, it was obviously taught to the children in a different manner, and they would do activities around, you know, maybe recognizing right and wrongs, and how things made them feel particularly, so talking about their emotions and things like that. I think for my son it did help, and I think it was my son that went, not my daughter, because my daughter was 1 when we left, so she had no memory of the relationship. My son was 3, still very young, but unfortunately that is an age where they most definitely can still remember things, and they definitely take things in. I was unaware of it at that time, but yeah, I think even from as young as 2, they would have memories of especially a toxic relationship. So that was helpful for him, and I feel like that's why I continued with it, because I want to say it was like 12 weeks. So it was once a week for 12 weeks. So quite long, quite intense, as anything like that can be. I was still at the time very guarded. I had most definitely built up a wall around myself where I wasn't willing to really express much emotion or be vulnerable. Being vulnerable to me at that time was a weakness, because when I was vulnerable, I had somebody absolutely rip me to shreds and walk all over me. So vulnerability was something that I didn't want to show. So going into a room with a group of women who some would open up freely and be very vulnerable was something that I was just like, this is not for me. I don't feel comfortable opening up anyway, and I particularly do not feel comfortable opening up to women or a group of people that I just don't know. Trust again obviously comes into that, and when you have, you know, had somebody that you were supposed to have trust really abuse your trust, trusting is not an easy thing to do after that. So I didn't really want to be there. So I wouldn't say I gained a lot myself from that. Maybe I did, but at the time I was not wanting to get involved. I did what I could, I'd done the bare minimum, but I wasn't somebody who would be forthcoming with any information or wanting to share my story. And it didn't help that there was a woman there who, I'm not even sure how the dots were connected, but ended up knowing who my ex was. So that was not helpful for me, because I was, you know, it goes back to what I said in my first video about having any kind of connection with your ex. You want to step away from that. So when I was in a situation where you were supposed to, you know, be showing a lot of vulnerability and feeling like you were in a safe space, to know that I was in a room with somebody who knew my ex, I can't remember what relationship she had, but she knew of him somehow, just made me feel like, no way, I am not sharing anything in this room now. So that wasn't probably that helpful for me emotionally moving forward. But then sometimes things, again, stepping out of your comfort zone and being in a situation that you wouldn't want to be in, but doing it anyway, I would have said I probably got some growth from it, but I can't say specifically what that growth would have been, because my only memory of that is that I didn't want to open up. So my other point to make was, so I've got here, discovering who I was outside of being a mum was huge. But again, that was by having freedom, socialising, mixing in different circles, speaking to different people from different walks of life. That was me having time away from my children to try and discover who I was. I think a big part also for me was not being hard on myself, not feeling disappointed in myself in any way, not seeing myself as a failure, I think was huge, because a part of the reason why I would and did hold on so long in that relationship was because I didn't want to be seen as another teen mum, or another single teen mum, another failed relationship whilst you're young, you know, my children not being in a family, which, you know, on reflection, that's way better to just have a healthy parent than a toxic parent in their life. So that was a journey for me to discover that I hadn't failed, that, you know, that wasn't my fault, and actually instead flip it and see it as a positive, and see that these things that happen are lessons, they are not failures, and they are things that do help you grow, and most definitely help me grow. I would not be the woman I am today, and I would not be living the life that I live now if I hadn't gone through those things. They weren't good things to go through, but they definitely shaped me into who I am. And I think that's always important. I know it's really cliche to say you have to always try and see the positives in situations, but you genuinely do. And I think that is what helps you move forward, to the point where I even had it tattooed on me at the time: never a failure, always a lesson. And that's one tattoo actually that I don't regret, because I do genuinely still stand by that quote, because I think it's so, so true. So another thing that helped me was working out. So I discovered the gym. Stepping foot in a gym anyway is actually, and can be, really intimidating. So I totally get why people don't feel comfortable with it, because I wouldn't, or I didn't. But again, I stepped out of my comfort zone and I pushed myself to join a gym. So at the time, I think this was when it was like realizing that women could build muscle and not be deemed as manly, or, you know, not seen as not feminine because they're building muscle. And the thing at the time was starting to build, you know, the legs, the bum, all of that. Now, I've always been somebody that has been slim, of an athletic build, if you would call it. And I was very insecure about myself in a lot of different ways, because, again, of my relationship. I would continually compare myself to the woman that he cheated on me with, because I was so insecure. I didn't see my worth. I would always think, well, what do they have that I don't? The usual questions that you would ask. So I think when I came out of that relationship, I also want to add, I was very, very underweight. I am somebody that when I'm stressed, I don't eat instead of overeating. So on myself that is already quite slim, not eating a good diet can, you know, really be noticeable. And when I look back on photos, I really did look unwell, to be honest. I was really, really slim. And because he would not, well, I don't think he had a type in terms of women that he cheated on me with, but you know, if there was somebody on the TV that he would, you know, remark on and love and praise, that woman was not me. She was not a slim girl, you know, she had shape and all of that. So I think that I came out of that feeling like I want to change my body. Not in a plastic surgery way, thankfully, but in a way that I felt I wanted to become strong also. I wanted to become strong, and I wanted to love myself and love my body more. And by working out, I definitely began to do that. I became a lot more confident within my body, a lot more happier, like looking in the mirror, being like, no, I look good, you know. And I think the gym definitely helped me on that journey physically to help me change mentally on how I viewed myself. So the gym was definitely helpful. So the last point that I want to make is without even knowing at the time, because back then journaling wasn't something that was really talked about or known about, but I have always been somebody, even from when I was at high school, who would write in a diary. And after that relationship and I left and I was at my mum's, I wrote in a diary a lot. I really, like, probably daily sometimes, where when I left my mum's in 3 years, I had about 3 or 4 notebooks full of where I had just been pouring my heart out. Not just solely about him, my ex, but just the journey that I was on over those years after leaving. The emotional roller coaster, the healing, the ups and downs, the relationships, you know, with friends, with dating, with my mum, my family, exploring myself, finding out who I was, finding out about relationships, as in family relationships. At the time when I moved back to my mum's, my relationship with my mum was really quite strained. Like I said, I was finding out things about myself, and I was also discovering things about my mum. So a lot of what went into that diary was just me pouring out my heart and allowing myself to be vulnerable with no judgment. And I think that really helped me to express myself freely without feeling like I was getting judged, without feeling like I need to shut off because I'm being too vulnerable here, because it was just me, my notepad and my pen. So that was huge in healing, I think, to be able to get things out and be vulnerable, because I feel that that is really needed on your healing journey. Discovering things about myself from pen to paper. And I have always been somebody that can write my feelings and emotions a lot better than I can speak them. So that was a way that I found really helpful for me anyway. I hope this is helpful to anybody that may be on this healing journey themselves, and that these pointers might be things that they can explore themselves. So yeah, I shall see you in my next video.